Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 3rd of June. Yes, we're officially rolling into summer now. It's the 3rd of June today, a kind of iconic day for Her Majesty the Queen. Happy Platinum Jubilee to you. You've been such an iconic monarch to this country. And yes, joining us tonight on this Friday night of action is Labour Party supporter Zach James from All Latest News. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Now, obviously, can I just start obviously with it being Platinum Jubilee weekend? Obviously, I will not be around tomorrow. I'm at parties myself, so I will not be hosting this show. Usually on a Saturday, I've moved it forward to tonight because we've got some big news to discuss, some serious topics other than the Jubilee celebrations, which we are going to actually kick off with first whilst we're here. A slightly different start to the show tonight. It's going to be a little bit more sort of not as agenda based until we get onto the stuff with Ukraine in a little while. Now, across the country, there are many things taking place across the Jubilee weekend. We know in London the other day, we had a massive parade with Troop in the Colour. We also know up in Chelmsford, Essex, there is a huge music festival taking place called Creamfield South. More on that in a minute. Now, Zach, what did you make to yesterday's celebrations in London, particularly with Meghan and Harry being in attendance?
No, I thought the celebrations, Troop in the Colour, as we know it, Charlie, which is a yearly thing, but it was obviously a bit more special this year because it's formed part of the Platinum Jubilee. I thought it was a very good show yesterday that we had. We got a good procession, a great display overall by the Queen's Guards and horses and everybody involved. It was fantastic, Charlie. It was great to watch. It was amazing. I loved the passion that the crowd was there and everything like that. It was brilliant. It was very uniting across this nation as well, Charlie. And for me, it was just a brilliant watch, in my opinion as well. We saw many people that did enjoy it. We managed to see the big balcony moment between the Queen and the working royals as well. It was such a special occasion, Charlie, because we don't often get to see this. We haven't seen this occasion for 2 years, I don't think, Charlie. Well, 3 years actually, to be precise, because in 2019 was the last time we had a proper, pack-filled Troop in the Colour as well. So this is the first time, especially being at Platinum Jubilee weekend, Charlie, as well. It's just been brilliant so far, Charlie. The weekend's been amazing. As well, we had today we had the service of Thanksgiving as well. Now the Queen's had to pull out some of the events, Charlie. She was due to attend the service of Thanksgiving today. She's got some mobility problems still, Charlie. Discomfort is according to what the statement says as well. So she didn't attend this morning, which is a bit of a shame. But nevertheless, Charlie, the service was great. I mean, I'm not a religious guy at all, but the service was very well done. It was perfect and reflected, religion, the Christian and Catholic society, Charlie, as well, which was great, as well. So yeah, that was it was good stuff, Charlie. It's been well produced so far, even if the Queen wasn't there. Tomorrow's events, I believe, include the Epsom Derby, which obviously the Queen was also supposed to be at. She's now not going to attend. I believe, from what I've been hearing from the rumours, Charlie, that the Queen may instead see Harry and Meghan's son instead. I think, is it Lilibet or something like that? Her name? I think it's Lilibet instead, because she hasn't seen Harry and Meghan's youngest one yet, and so she's going to use this opportunity tomorrow, given the fact that Harry and Meghan are in the UK. Fair play to them. I think it's good that they're there. If they weren't there, Charlie, they would have been crucified if they weren't there, and they would have been going to get crucified anyway if they are there. So I think it's good that they're there. It's good to see that it looks like they're taking interest in the family on this special occasion. But I think it's also good as well that the Queen's going to get some bonding. But so tomorrow's events include, I think, the Epsom Derby, which obviously is, senior royal family members are going to attend anyway on her behalf, as well. And then tomorrow, on Sunday, Charlie, it's the big lunches and parties across the UK There's going to also be a pageant as well, Charlie. We're going to see the royal pageant as well. And then I think on Saturday night as well, it is the big Jubilee concept as well. There's many acts as well, Charlie, that are going to be taking part in that.
That will be on the BBC, just to let you know, guys.
That will be on the BBC. It's the Platinum Party at the Palace. It's known as well. It's going to be on BBC One. There's going to be performances from Adam Lambert, Diana Ross, Queen and Adam Lambert, which is very ironic because, Queen are performing on a night dedicated to Queen, which just makes perfect sense, as well. So that's good to see, Charlie, as well. And it's going to feature like Elbow as well. There's many on the lineup. So Alicia Keys, Hans Zimmer, Ella Eyre, Craig David, Mabel, George Ezra, who I'm a big fan of, Charlie, Duran Duran, Andrea Bocelli, Mimi Webb, Jax Jones, Celeste, Nile Rodgers, Sigala, Diversity, and Sam Ryder. The Eurovision entry, Charlie, is going to be there as well, performing tomorrow night. It's from 7:30 on BBC One tomorrow night. It's a big party that's going to happen. And honestly, it's going to be quite a spectacle there, Charlie. It's going to be big crowds and everything as well. But the pageant as well is going to be big crowds. And it's going to be the parties on the Sunday, the street parties, the big cakes, the sandwiches as well on the Sunday as well. I know around my corner as well, there's going to be a street party as well, right around where I am as well. So, it's going to be a big weekend of celebrations, Charlie. We've had 2 days of it already. We've got another 2 days left to go. Begin with the Epsom and then the party at the Palace on Saturday evening. And then the Sunday, it is the big pageant and lunches and street parties as well on that day. So lots still to go, Charlie.
Plenty, Zach, as well. I've just got a little article up here from who's performing tomorrow. We've got celebrities in attendance. According to that, it'll be pre-recorded video link. Got David Attenborough, Emma Raducanu, tennis player, David Beckham, Stephen Fry, Dame Julie Andrews, the Royal Ballet, and of course, Paralympic superstar swimmer Ellie Simmons as well. Also, as well, performances will include Adam Lambert and Queen. Queen, of course, massive music legends in the 80s and even the 70s for Bohemian Rhapsody. Nile Rodgers, Sigala, Sam Ryder, well done to him on Eurovision, and several other people as well. So, that is all I can say on Jubilee celebrations. Of course, if you're Boris Johnson, more on that to come probably later on in the show. If one of your papers says he got booed the other day, more on that later.
He got booed today, actually.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that later, you said.
Yeah, more of that later with the Prime Minister and what is happening on the agenda as well. Also, as well, Creamfield South, we'll talk about that in Charlie's Good News. Now, I'm going to talk all about tonight's main story, which we're going to cover the war in Ukraine now. Now, let's start with the war. Now we're 100 days into this war. This is a horrible conflict lasting 3 months. Probably many more still to come, unfortunately. Lots of people have unfortunately died. In fact, I'm now going to give you roughly the actual estimates, which we believe, of people who have fought in this war. It has been announced that about 46,000 people have died, according to this estimated losses section here. At least 400 people are missing. At least 2.3 thousand buildings have been destroyed. Approximately $600 billion in damage, and approximately 13,000 people have suffered non-fatal injuries. This war has been a horrendous, it's just horrendous. The conflict's been atrocious. Russia clearly do not know the atrocities they're committing in their country on state TV, thinking that they're invincible. It is horrible. And I have to say, over the last week, the EU have been a complete and utter nightmare in the negotiations with Ukraine. And in general, they have been lacking leadership over the last week. Last week, Olaf Scholz was one of the people who was there. He can't even make his mind up whether to limit Russian oil and gas into his country, whether to stick sanctions on that. We have already done that. To go from the European Parliament, where they saw ballerinas there the other week, to now basically not deciding the latest round of sanctions. I mean, Zach, I have to say this, but don't you agree that the EU are a bit slow on this?
Well, yeah, they've been very divided on this issue, Charlie. Unfortunately, now we've got to the stage where it all goes so wrong, yet when it comes to the 6th round of sanctions, it all goes a little bit wrong. So the good news is, let's take some good news out of this, though, Charlie. They have managed to come up with an agreement on Russian oil. This is important. They've managed to ban about, I believe, what they think is 3/4
90%.
90% actually of all oil coming from Russia, except, and the exclusion is, this is a compromise, Charlie, so that it appeases Hungary, because Hungary rely heavily on Russian gas and oil. They are banning Russian oil when it comes from a pipeline. So, and the likes of Hungary get a lot of their Russia's through pipelines. And that sort of thing, Charlie. Anything in the sea, Charlie, coming from pump from the sea, is banned. If it goes through lines, gas pump lines, and that sort of thing, then it's exempt, Charlie. Although the aim of this is that 90% of Russian oil is going to get banned before the end of the year, Charlie. So another 6 months' time before 90% of them is banned. So it is a result that they've managed to come up with something, Charlie. Obviously, I have to say, Charlie, this is a lesser compromise than I think what we could have anticipated. But it's a less of a compromise that Hungary has even accepted, Charlie. As I said, they've relied on oil and gas from Russia for many long time as well. The Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister, proposed the original measures, Charlie, but he has come board with the 6 rounds of sanctions this time around, when it's got exempted for his from the pipelines rather than from the sea. So yeah, so it's been very divided EU. They had to call a summit just specifically for this as well, Charlie, as well. So yeah, it wasn't a while ago. What date was that, Charlie, by the way? I think that might have been a while ago. What's the article? Okay, so that's the 31st. That's quite recent, Charlie. Yeah. But they've suggested now that Russian gas is unlikely to be part of the next round of sanctions against Vladimir Putin, hours after the Green historic but incomplete oil embargo. So they agreed to ban 90% of Russian oil imported by the demand for exemption for Hungary, Slovakia, and Czech Republic. They rely on Russian oil, as you said. They can contribute via the Soviet era pipeline for indeterminate periods. But so there has been an embargo, Charlie. That has been agreed. So in some ways, it's not a full ban is very unlikely. I think that's what it means, Charlie. But a ban that's been mostly has been taking place as well. And I think Olaf Scholz at one point was saying, well, if you're going to gather exemptions, we might as well be exempt as well. But it's obviously a bit ridiculous, Charlie. But at the end of the day, they managed to ban get an embargo on most Russian oil. And Russian oil makes up much of the money that they make, Charlie. So that's what's happened there. Right, let's go through the other bits of news from today, Charlie. Some good news first of all, Charlie. Severodonetsk, Charlie. Severodonetsk. I can't pronounce that in full. Severodonetsk, Charlie. As well. That looked like it was very easily about to fall to Russian control, Charlie. The good news today is the Ukraine managed to recapture 20% of that, Charlie. The percentage was held somewhere around 70%. Now we were pushing back by approximately 20%. So Russia have half of Severodonetsk instead of 70% of it, Charlie. That is good news. That sign of progress, because it proves that Ukraine can launch some counterattacks, but it's still half and half, Charlie, and the Ukraine needs to do more to defend themselves. We have seen Zelensky out today on the 100th day of the invasion, Charlie, as well, saying that Ukraine will be the victors out of this. I support his enthusiasm, Charlie, and I do actually agree on that. I think he's got every right to say that, and I completely agree with them, Charlie. There, we've gone through the bit of the Severodonetsk. That's the same bit as well. We just talked about that 70% left of it, as well. He believes he's right. Emmanuel Macron spoke on Friday about Vladimir Putin, saying he had committed a historic and fundamental error by invading Ukraine, and was now isolated. He told him, I told him that he made a historic fundamental error for his people, for himself, for history. I think he has himself isolated. Yes, he has, right, Charlie. Macron said he also did not rule out a visit to Kyiv, which is good news, I suppose, if we want to repair relations between France and Ukraine and make sure the relations get better. Because I think that would be important, Charlie, to make sure that Macron understands Zelensky's concerns and that sort of thing. It's only a good idea. That was a while, Charlie, ago. I think before the invasion, I think, Charlie, took place as well. The Swiss government rejected a demand by Denmark to send nearly 24 Swiss-made army personal carriages to Ukraine as well. So, yeah, that's a bit of a shame, but obviously as well. Let's go through the rest of the news as well, Charlie, today. The Ukrainian police opened 16 criminal investigations in allegations of sexual violence committed by Russian soldiers against civilians, also known as genocide, Charlie. I mean, that's just... I know, Charlie. I think the face of it all, it's absolutely appalling. It's revolting, Charlie. So, yeah, the face says it all, really, when you see stuff like that. 16, that's genocide, and it's a revolting act of disgusting things continued by the Russians again as well. 2 Reuters journalists, sadly, journalists have been in the front line of this, and sadly 2 Reuters journalists, and they were wounded, and then the driver was killed after their car came under fire in eastern Ukraine, Charlie. As well, the journalist sustained minor injuries. Thank goodness it's only minor, not major, but the driver was killed, unfortunately.
No, that's war crimes again.
And the Kremlin was outlined today, basically saying that they will continue their military operation, so-called special military operation, aka war on Russia,
or invasion,
achieved, Charlie, as well. I'm not surprised it's not over yet. I think this could still escalate in some ways as well. And the head of the African Union, Macky Sall, urged Vladimir Putin to consider the suffering of African countries from food shortages, because obviously, Charlie, with wheat coming in from Ukraine as well, that's a key provider of food supplies worldwide. It does affect areas like South Africa and UK as well, Charlie. So, yeah, Ukraine's problem with food and everything like that has caused implications worldwide as well, Charlie. But yeah, that's the news today from the world of Ukraine. It's not a pretty, it's still not going that pretty, Charlie. But especially in Severodonetsk, but the situation needs to improve, and it needs to improve quickly as well, Charlie, because we don't want to see Severodonetsk fall down and fall to the Russians.
I have to say, Zach, I saw President Putin a couple of days ago on this big conference thing with loads of people, and he was discussing something quite interesting, because he was saying clearly that he was talking about some unfriendly countries that have tried kicking Russia out, and basically Putin spoke of himself being isolated from the whole world. The thing is, Zach, is that today I read up on Sky News earlier that Russia claim that they will continue this special military operation to try and denazify Ukraine, basically calling the Ukrainian government neo-Nazis. Well, we know that is simply not true. We know that it is absolutely outlandish comments. It's frankly stupid to say that. My view is, Zach, is Putin becoming mentally deranged and isolated in his own right?
Yeah, well, I want to show this to this, Charlie. If I can find this about what was said the other day. There was I found this interesting, Charlie. There is a very interesting article actually, because we're talking about whether Putin ill or not as well, Charlie. And there's obviously been these unconfirmed rumors and everything like that. Well, US Intel yesterday, Charlie. This is a thing from Newsweek as well. They have reported that that Vladimir Putin's health is subject to intense conversation by the Biden administration, because the intelligence community has come out saying that Putin seemed to reemerge after undergoing treatment in April for advanced cancer, Charlie. This is from 3 US intelligence sources, Charlie. There was this also said an assassination attempt from Putin's life in March as well. So the fact is that US intelligence, which has been pretty reliable about this, Charlie, they've been very good throughout the build up to this invasion, Charlie. They've been pretty much spot on about what could happen. They've come back with intelligence saying that Putin actually is ill and that he actually got treated for cancer and everything like that. There was also rumors as well, Charlie, because I think there was comments about it when Putin appeared at an event recently as well. And I think Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, had to correct some claims, or so-called claims, whatever, that Putin would had strokes and everything like that. I think it was, wasn't it? And it looked like he. So there is a real question now, Charlie. Obviously, these could be all fictional reports, Charlie. But when you get US intel saying this, they're kind of could be some truth to this, Charlie. So, the fact that he's acting like this and could be having cancer or anything like that as well, whilst acting like this, it shows you the mental mind isn't right of Putin potentially, Charlie. There's a lot going on inside his brain. And whatever it's been fed, Charlie, it's making him ill. And it's making him out of control.
It's making him Mad Vlad, as people call him.
Yeah, Mad Vlad.
The Daily Star called him Mad Vlad. The thing is that if he gets more deranged, could he go after more countries? He really wants to just rebuild the Soviet Union, and the regime was evil back in the 30s.
Yeah,
we saw Stalin took a chunk of Poland. It's clear that Putin will want to envisage the Soviet Union back in a heyday, but I just don't think the war in Ukraine will continue for many more months to come. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but they've got to win on their own, the Ukrainians. And thank goodness they are fighting till the very end to try and keep their country safe from Russian occupiers who are causing disruption, unlike anything we've ever seen since the 1940s. Now, moving on from the latest news on the Charlie Tolhurst show of the agenda to sports news now. Now, we're going to start with F1 now, because I've got a little bit to talk about on F1 tonight. Now, we're going to start with the review of the Monaco Grand Prix, which saw Sergio Perez take his 3rd career win and his 1st win of the season and his 2nd win for Red Bull. Now, this race was certainly filled with a plenty of drama, whether it was a long delay, a red flag, racing, red flag again. And then also as well, Charles Leclerc botching a pretty crazy pit stop and going in when he wanted to stay out to potentially costing him a victory. Zach, what do you make of the Monaco Grand Prix?
Oh, was it a mad Monaco Grand Prix, Charlie? It certainly was. Let's begin with the start, Charlie, because I was messaging a few people about this, Charlie. And the general consensus on this, Charlie, is that the FIA was pretty poor as well. They were looking ahead rather than looking at the situation now. I thought it was ridiculous, Charlie, that we had to wait all that time just because of a little bit of weather and everything like that. It was a little bit of light rain, Charlie, at the time. So you would think they'll be able to race it on a little bit of a wet track, which would have been making it exciting. That wasn't too wet, but it was wet enough for intermediate tyres and all that sort of thing. So you would think they'll be racing on that. No. They ended up delaying the start by, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then delayed it again by another 10. And then there was a further delay, Charlie. And then they decided then it was the best time to actually go around the track behind the safety car when the weather was at its worst. I mean, come on. Who decides, right, okay, what is going through the FIA's head when the track, a little bit of rain, Charlie, is enough for them to delay? But when it's a super, super, super wet track, which is undrivable eventually, and they end up causing a red flag, did actually cause a red flag eventually, why did they go around and try and start the race then? It mind-boggled me, absolutely mind-boggled me, Charlie. It was a terrible decision overall. It just mind-boggled me. It's just so much incompetence by the FIA overall in their decision-making. When we did get underway, Charlie, obviously Leclerc was on the pole. The Ferrari's locked out the front row and that sort of thing. When we did get underway, it was pretty much as it was with Leclerc leading the way as the track was beginning to dry. And then we had that big crash from Mick Schumacher, which tore the car in half, Charlie. We saw it as well. It tore the car in half. A bit like what not the first time a Haas has managed to fall apart.
Grosjean 2020 in Bahrain, yeah.
Yeah. This crash wasn't as big, but it still tore the car apart. It was a big old accident. Mick thankfully was okay. And then we had the absolute chaos, Charlie, of the Ferrari strategy unraveling, where they decided to, I think it was, that Leclerc came in, was told to by the team, then he was tasked to stay out, and they got completely outflanked by the Red Bulls, who decided to go long and maintain the pace, and it worked for them, Charlie. For Sergio Perez, he jumped Leclerc and Sainz, and you know, once Perez got jumped the rest of them, he was in the lead, Charlie. He was in the lead after a few safety cars, and it was very close at the end, Charlie. It was really, really close. I mean, it was 3 seconds between the top four, Charlie. So it was really exciting end to the race, Charlie. But Perez managed to hold Sainz off. Max Verstappen managed to hold off Leclerc. That's crucial for the championship, Charlie. And it resulted in Sergio Perez's, I think, third career victory, second at Red Bull as well, ahead of Sainz, who missed out again at a possible victory. He was ahead of just managed to beat Verstappen off as well, and managed to then beat Leclerc as well. George Russell, fifth. All races this season for Mercedes, he's the only driver, Charlie, to finish in the top 5 in every single race so far this season. That's incredible consistency. We got to praise George Russell as well. Lando Norris, sixth. Good race for him. He managed to recover from tonsillitis to finish sixth. Alonso was seventh. Hamilton was finished eighth. He finished where he qualified, basically. Bottas was ninth. Vettel managed to get into the points, Charlie, in 10th. Gasly was 11th. Ocon was 12th. Ricardo had another poor weekend in 13th. Lance Stroll, Nicholas Latifi, the Canadian, 14th and 15th. Guan Yu Zhou, 16th. Snowden was 17th. Alex Albon managed. The purple hair machine is not really working this time. He finished 18th. 19th was obviously Schumacher. Magnussen, I noticed, retired before Schumacher. He was in 20th position as well, Charlie. As well. Next race, Charlie, is going to be at Azerbaijan. And we've certainly seen chaotic races in Azerbaijan, Charlie, over the last few years. This one could be just as chaotic potentially as well, depending on what could happen. But it always seems to spring up a trial. That'll be next week, Charlie. The race will be at 12 p.m. on the Sunday, the 12th of June as well. So that is the race then, Charlie.
Yeah, just before we move on, Zach, I just wanted to update the listeners on Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, because if you didn't see the race on Sunday, he apparently collided with Lewis Hamilton into Saint Devote. Yeah. Hence why at the bottom of the standings, it says Ocon received a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision. Now, Zach, what did you make to that move between Hamilton and Ocon?
Yeah, I don't think it was the worst offence in the world, Charlie. I mean, but he certainly did cause the collision, to be fair. So, yeah, I think it was fair enough, Charlie. I think the 5-second penalty was all right. It sounded a bit harsh or something like that. But, yeah, I think it was right today. But just going back to the standings, Charlie, Max Verstappen's 9 points ahead of Charles Leclerc now. I think if Ferrari stopped screwing strategies up, then Leclerc would have been ahead. And obviously, Leclerc would have been unlucky in some ways because obviously the reliability issue had in Spain and then the strategy screwing over him in Monaco, Charlie. I suspect this will be more of a Red Bull track next time in Azerbaijan, Charlie, for Verstappen. So it could be to his strength. Look at Sergio Perez as well, Charlie. We haven't mentioned him. He's in third position, Charlie, in the driving standings. And he's only 6 points behind Charles Leclerc. And he's only 15 behind Verstappen. So Perez, despite the fact he's not won a race this season, is well in the drivers' champion, within the race of the drivers' championship so far, Charlie. Would you believe it or not? So keep an eye on him. He's just signed a new 2-year deal, by the way, Perez, to stay at Red Bull until the end of 2024. So that's a big boost of confidence as well, Charlie, for Perez as well. He's got another 2 years on the Red Bull contract now. So that's extremely important for him as well. As you can see as well, George Russell's 4th, Carlos Sainz is 5th, Lewis Hamilton's 6th as well, and so on. So that's the top 6 in the standings as well, Charlie.
Yeah, and I have to say, Zach, as well, Daniel, before we move on, I think there's going to be a lot of talk over the next few weeks about Daniel Ricciardo's future at McLaren, because I have to say, I'm going to be doing a YouTube video on Daniel Ricciardo in the coming days to see whether he's staying in F1. And I just have to say, the performance he had in Monaco was an absolute shambles. He finished, I think, 13th in the end. And he crashed in he crashed I think in FP2, I think, just after the swimming pool. A pretty huge accident. Thank goodness he was all walked away. And then obviously Perez had a bit of a moment on Saturday, crashing out as well. Portier. I just have to say, I think it's clear to me, Zach, that Daniel Ricciardo is in big trouble for next year if he doesn't perform at McLaren.
Yeah, it's no wonder the conversation starting about him, because he seems to be, Charlie, really struggling compared to Lando Norris at the moment, and it's really interesting, Charlie, because he seems to be really struggling, and we don't know what's causing it. He's just not getting the results, Charlie, that he needs. And that sucks, unfortunately, but it's the way it's going at the moment for January, and he needs to prove results quickly because he's in a different car, Charlie, compared to last season. It wasn't necessarily his style, but he's still got issues, Charlie, and he needs to fix them beforehand to be able to continue with McLaren.
When was the last time a driver got sacked by a team? Well, Jarno Trulli found that out with Renault very early on. I think it might have been 2004 or something. I'm not sure what year it was, but Jarno Trulli actually got sacked by Renault because he because he apparently didn't perform well against his teammate Fernando Alonso. So that was another one. But yeah, all I can say is that let's hope Daniel Ricciardo stays in F1, but his future at McLaren is looking unclear at the moment. Now, moving on to the second part of the weekend, which was the Indianapolis 500 taking place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Now, I watched the highlights of this. I managed to see them yesterday. And Marcus Ericsson won his maiden Indy 500. Not without its big moments, because there were several top names that crashed out. Jimmy Johnson, Romain Grosjean having a pretty nasty accident as well. And Zach, there was about at least 6 or 7 cautions, maybe more in that race. But for Marcus Ericsson, he put up a fight, didn't he, to win?
He did. He certainly put up a fight, Charlie. And that was all because of a late caution. I think it was the Johnson crash that caused the caution.
Yes, Jimmy Johnson.
That caused it. Because I did actually watch the whole race, Charlie, and I kind of remember all of it. But yes, it was a very good 500, Charlie. Certainly very good. It was a great race overall. And there was a lot of really exciting but surreal moments, Charlie. For example, if you look at what happened with Alec Palou early on, he was an early contender, Charlie, to win the race. He then got a speeding penalty. And then in the last 20 or so laps, Charlie, wow. I mean, it all changed. Scott Dixon was in the top 2 the whole race, Charlie. And guess what? He goes in for his last fuel pit stop. He gets a speeding penalty. And he has to go back to serve a pit pass-through penalty, Charlie. It was immense, Charlie. Absolutely immense that you can make fatal mistakes like that and lose the Indy 500. I mean, it was what a watch it was. And then we had the late caution, Charlie. Ericsson and Pato Award as well, Charlie. The top 2. Oh, incredible, Charlie. Ericsson managed to hold off, managed to pass with 3 laps to go before the red flag came out. And then we got the green-white finish. And Ericsson managed to hold on extremely importantly and win the 500. It was a great race, Charlie. It really was, and a fantastic race. He managed to finish ahead of Pato Award, as you saw there, Charlie. as well. Tony Kanaan was running close to well in third. Rosenquist fourth. Alex Rossi fifth. Daly had a good race, Charlie. I think Connor Daly, had a very good race. He managed to come all the way, I think it was the back of the grid, Charlie, to finish in sixth position. He started, there you go, starts 18th, Charlie. Oh, that's 18 starts. Sorry, my bad. Apologies. As well. Is that the start now? Oh, actually, it might be the starting grid. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
That's the 18th.
Yeah, that was starting grid.
As well, I managed to work his way to sixth. Great job by him. Great job by Rossi as well. Fifth position. Sofa did head of Cavazares to 27th. Finished 7th. Paginal was 8th. Palou was 9th. Ferrucci in 10th. Really good race, Charlie. Ferrucci's very consistent as well. Ferrucci's standing for Callum Ilott next race, by the way, because Callum Ilott has injured himself during a crash. He did walk out.
Yeah, I watched that horrible accident for him.
But he did, I think, injure one of his fingers, Charlie. So he's going to be... so Callum Ilott's going to be replaced by Ferrucci in the next race, Charlie, I believe, as well. J.R. Hildebrand 12th position as well. Montoya 11th. Ferrucci 10th as well. It was a great race, Charlie. It was a brilliant race overall. I loved watching it. It's fantastic, Charlie. A lot of action, a lot of twists and turns that caused Marcus Ericsson to win the 500. And great job by him.
Yes, and the next IndyCar race, well, I think we're actually at another oval by the sounds of it. I know we're not actually... Oh, yeah, the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix is actually the next race, June the 5th. Yeah. I think it's this weekend, actually, we're racing. So
it's Sunday, yeah. Charlie. We're racing this Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah. So we're racing this Sunday as well. Looking forward to that. I might be able to watch... Oh, actually, what time is it? 3 p.m. Oh, I might have to record that because of the Britain's Got Talent finals on that clash with that.
Yeah.
So I might have to... catch that up, unfortunately. But oh well, that's why the cookie crumble goes unfortunate on that one. But yes, I will be following closely anyway, Charlie, that race.
Yeah, and that is on a road course as well, the Belle Park circuit there that will be used for the next race, which is in Detroit. I just wanted to say that IndyCar's next oval race is actually, I believe, Worldwide Technologies Raceway. In Illinois, which is where, that's actually where the next oval track is. NASCAR, I think, are actually heading there. I think this next week, actually.
This weekend, actually, I think it's...
Yeah, actually, this weekend they're heading. Jeez, I thought it was next week. I'm getting confused there, but never mind. That is all of the Indy 500 action. But we're going to start off with the Cup Series, more on Gateway or Worldwide Technologies Raceway in a minute. But the Coca-Cola 600 was held at the weekend. We're getting the results up for you now, guys. And Zach, can I say, I watched the highlights just yesterday, and this race provided plenty of wrecks, including loads of action. And Denny Hamlin fending off Kyle Busch, who at one point nearly ended up being out of the race.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. It was everything in this race. As you can see by that image there, Charlie, Chris Buescher had a whopper of an accident, Charlie. Managed to flip over on the front stretch several times. He didn't manage to get out of the car, Charlie, but he's okay and everything like that. But that was a whopper of an accident, wasn't it? Certainly managed to flip that car over. But Denny Hamlin, managed to hold on ahead of Kyle Busch, ahead of Harvick as well. Trace Briscoe was 4th, Chris Bell 5th, Tyler Reddick 6th, Stenhouse Jr. was 7th, Michael McDowell 8th, Larson was 10th, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson was 9th, Alex Bowman was 10th. Charlie, that was what a race and a half that was, Charlie. It was certainly action everywhere. I think I read comments saying it was the best Coca-Cola 600 in many years, Charlie. And these Gen 7 cars certainly are making the ability for that to happen, Charlie. No doubt about it. It was a great race overall. Hamlin managed to hold off Busch to get the points as well. He gets the 42 points required to win the race, Charlie. As well. Let me go over the point standing now, because we haven't gone through this much this season, but I want to go through the point standing because it's important, Charlie. So Chase Elliott is leading at the moment. He's got 1 win. So if you win a race, Charlie, you are automatically locked into the playoffs, as long as you finish in the top 16 and you have won. So if you've won, as long as you finish in the top 30, then you can be eligible for a playoff spot. If you don't win, you have to finish within the top 16 to be able to do that. So at the moment, Charlie, the likes of Chase Elliott, Chastain, I think that's Kurt Busch. No, it's Kyle Busch. Sorry, my bad. Kyle Busch, as well. Joe Logano, William Byron, Alex Bowman, Carl Larson, Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, Austin Cedric, Kurt Busch have all run races this season, Charlie, and eligible. They are all within the top 30 as well. The only one that seems to be closest to the bottom is Kurt Busch or anything, Charlie, but he's 20th and has won the race this season. The ones that are definitely going through on points so far are Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr., Charlie. And so is, at the moment, Christopher Bell, Kevin Harvick, and Tyler Reddick are all going through based on points at the moment rather than wins. But if you won a race, Charlie, then you are, as long as you finish in the top 30 whilst winning the race, then you are through to the playoffs as well. So Elliott and Chastain is almost certainly going to be in the playoff, Charlie, when it comes to September. But there's plenty of time for the likes of Blaney and Truex to pick up a win and guarantee yourself a playoff spot, Charlie.
Yeah, whilst we're here, we're going to play for you some quick actions and some of the highlights at the event in Charlotte Motor Speedway on the oval course, as there was a huge wreck involving Chris Buescher and Daniel Suarez, which I would like to show you. Have a listen to this.
Tonight, but he won at Kentucky in July of 2020, and he's having one of the best drives of his career tonight. So there are your Credit One Bank ones to watch, and the lead has changed. That was your pick, Jamie.
Well, I jinxed him now, Clint. I've taken your position, apparently.
Big slide job. He actually lifted a little bit and gave him the spot. Oh, Suarez! Briscoe got it into the back of Suarez, and he gets pounded.
Dang it. Oh, Buescher upside down. I think he hooked a drain. Larson's just going wherever Chastain isn't right now. He's trying to get Chastain looking in the mirror, trying to make him make a mistake right now with only 47 laps to go. Oh, he's going to get to his inside right here.
Not quite.
He can make it stick and turn it forward.
He's going to have to slide up in front of him. I think he's going to do it.
He's going to clear it. Wow. Right there.
Kyle Larson.
If I think back to qualifying, Denny Hamlin running the bottom of 3 and 4.
He's there. Now he's going to be able to try to force the 5 into the corner hard. 5's going to have to be careful here. He's going to have to maintain that position if he lets him slide in front of him. The race is over. Here it comes. Oh, it's almost 182.
Almost the exact same thing with Kurt Busch and Kyle Larson at Kansas, but Kyle Larson was able to get back to Chase Briscoe's outside right there.
You heard the spotter say, take it, take it. Didn't do it. Here he comes again. Oh, and around he goes. And the caution waves. I don't think Kyle Larson wanted to see that either.
Absolutely not.
That was Chase Briscoe's one shot.
Well, I don't think this is one shot.
I think it's one shot. It's a shot.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's when the opportunity presented itself to him right there.
We've seen him to the bobbles just a little bit. Oh, now he's on the outside. Chastain's got him 4 wide. Oh, they're wrecking. Unbelievable. Did the caution come out?
They get the
white? No. Caution before the white. Caution. We will line up and do it again.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
All those guys going for it, coming off of turn 4. Austin Dillon looked like he was in the perfect position.
Well, he was.
He was.
Teammates. Busch and Hamlin. Stenhouse to the bottom. Harvick up top. Holding strong. Cannot let him up. Coming to the white flag.
White flag, no help, either one direction.
Next flag ends the race. Bandini coming up in there. Same thing, just like early in the race. Kyle Busch gets loose on the outside. Power move by Denny Hamlin.
He's got no help by two.
The longest and one of the most exciting Coca-Cola 600s ever comes down to the final corner. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing, and they come to the line. Hamlin wins by 2 car lengths. What a race.
Yeah, what a race indeed. Can I just say to Denny Hamlin for winning that race. Plenty of wrecks, plenty of exciting action. And Zach, I'll tell you what, 2 wrecks meant that the race pretty much went into overtime.
Yeah, pretty much, Charlie. Those wrecks pretty much sent the race into overtime because obviously they don't normally, unless it's the last lap, Charlie. They don't finish the race under caution unless it's the last lap. So they would try to do overtime if possible, and there's 2 of them that sent them into overtime, Charlie. So yeah, it was very exciting into the race. Overall, it's pretty impressive anyway, Charlie. But yeah, it was a great race, Charlie. It marked off a great day of racing overall across the world, Charlie, because this was obviously what I call Crown Jewel Sunday with obviously the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, the Coco 600. It was a great day of racing, Charlie. I think overall it was brilliant work, the job.
It did as well, and obviously this weekend we're at Worldwide Technologies Raceway, Xfinity. Just a quick update on what happened there. Josh Berry winning that from Ty Gibbs and Sam Mayer. And in the Camping World Truck Series race, I do not actually think they did actually race Ross Chastain winning the Truck Series race last week there as well. I think we did round up.
Yeah, we did because we started chatting when they finished, I think, Charlie. So yeah.
Yep. So this weekend we go to Worldwide Technologies Raceway where the IndyCar season goes later on. That will be an interesting race. We'll keep you updated on that as we come in. Now it's time for Charlie's good news. Now, obviously, tonight we're going to be talking to start with about Britain's Got Talent. It is semi-finals. We will not give any details away about tonight's show. I just want to say that, guys, because I've got to watch the show. So me and Zach will not give any details away tonight about the show regarding show 5. But we're going to review the first 4 semi-finals. Please, guys, if you do not want any spoilers, please skip this part of the show when you watch this back. Okay? Because this is a very important part. We are going to be talking about Britain's Got Talent here.
Yes.
And I know some people might not have seen it, but this is what we're going to go through. So we're going to go through the first 4 nights of the show. Now, on the first night, we saw a huge reaction as Maxwell Thorpe won the first semi-final. Also joining him, I think, is Charlie Langley, the ventriloquist act, which were the first 2 places of the final. Now, Zach, what have you made so far to the Britain's Got Talent semi-finals at the Hammersmith Apollo?
I have to say, Charlie, I've made the quality of the act pretty good so far. I won't give anything away tonight, but there's been a bit of mixed reviews tonight. So from my end perspective, from what I've been watching, I'm still watching whilst we're chatting here. So I won't obviously give anything away because that's the last thing I'd want to do with you. But yeah, it's been an interesting set of semi-finals, no less. We've had Lorraine Alred as well, Charlie, perform. Obviously, she is the one from the greatest dancer. Interesting enough,
The Great Showman,
The Great Showman. Sorry, my bad. The Great Showman. She got plenty of fame already enough, Charlie, to go on the show. It's very interesting that they accept her onto it. But she's obviously collecting the public very well, as well, Charlie. The ones that I did like as well are. Let me tell you what the ones I did like. Flint's and Taylor, Charlie, very good duo. I love their singing. I think they're great singing, Charlie. They're great pair together, as well. The other one I think as well. I was really impressed with Jamie Leahy, as well.
Jamie Leahy, yeah.
Yeah, the one with the that the one with the parrot, wasn't it?
The ventriloquist, that, yeah.
Yeah, and it was great overall, Charlie. But yeah, it was a great job overall. And then obviously as well, we saw Tom Ball as well. As well, it was a great job. I mean, he was brilliant as well. Listening to him, and obviously Eva Alberly as well. I mean, won the judges' vote. Great job by her as well. It was. So yeah, it was. It was been a good set of semi-final so far, and obviously the final will be on Sunday, Charlie, at 7:30 on ITV as well. There's certainly some great acts, and we're going to get a win on Sunday.
Yeah, Zach. There was also some acts that didn't quite hit the jackpot for me. Obviously, I was judging on the show. Would there have been some buzzers? I have to say, I think I've watched this guy at Butlins many times. At Titan the Robot, certainly soaking Amanda Holden last night on the show. Annalisa Dixon didn't get through. Also, an act I actually really liked. I know a lot of people will have different opinions with me. Ranger Chris, the dancing dinosaur act. I actually thought it looked quite cool. They actually, Simon loved it. I could tell Simon Cowell loved a dancing dinosaur, arguing with the rest of them to put them through to the live shows. The other acts didn't quite hit it for me. Clearly, last night, I think his name was not Stefano Tixpaus, but there was this comedian last night who, with this impressionist, that didn't quite hit the jackpot. Ben Nicholas is already through to the final anyway on Sunday as well. I have to say, though, I wasn't that impressed yesterday with there was like a panto act. I wasn't impressed with them as well. Just lacking the talent as well. I mean, Zach, there was a few buzzers the other night as well. Clearly, some of the judges are not happy with some of the semi-finalists' performance compared to the audition.
There's been I won't give too much away. There's been a few tonight as well. I won't give out who got it, but it's obviously some of these acts that do get through, obviously, who were very good on in the auditions, don't seem to translate it fully. Overall in the semi-finals, Charlie. So yeah, there is been instances like that. It's unfortunate, but it does happen, I'm afraid. But yeah, so there's been instances of that. But yeah, it's been a good show overall, Charlie. I think the last couple of shows.
Yeah, I have to say I'm very interested to see what tonight's one is. I will watch that after this show finishes. So I'll let you know, guys, what will be on. Actually, just to let you know, guys, there is also Golden Buzzer acts on the show. Now, before we move on and do the papers, tonight, this weekend also marks Creamfields South. I know a couple of my friends are there this weekend. I'm not going to name the individuals tonight on my show. I know my friend Zach knows them as well. Creamfields South is on this weekend in Highlands Park in Chelmsford. This is a huge music festival, guys. I just wanted to say at the start of the show, we were going to mention Creamfields South because some huge acts. I think Calvin Harris is going to be there. We know that I think there's a few big acts that are here. It's basically one of the biggest festivals in the country. And we have a big program of acts that are coming out. Traffic certainly might have been an issue yesterday on the A130, A12, probably on the M25. People were basically getting probably queued up ready. But we're going to go through the schedule now, guys. And Zach, plenty of action in this event.
Oh, yeah, there's been absolute plenty on the lineup, Charlie, as well. It's been overall... it's quite a big lineup if you think about it, Charlie. It's the first time that Creamfield's been held in Chelmsford, I should point out, by the way. This is a new edition for this year. And they've got some good acts. I'll give you an example. David Guetta, Fatboy Slim, Becky Hill, Jonas Blue, Joel Curry, Jodie Harsh, Anton Powers. Some others were Eric Pridge, Kolsch, Camel Fat. Who else? Jerry Daniel, Jamie Jones, Patrick Topping. Some of the names as well on that stage. hot since 1982. 82, sorry, I should say, as well. I'm just trying to think of who else is there. Down Styled. And then tomorrow, Charlie, on the Saturday, it's going to be the main stage. It's going to be Calvin Harris on the main stage, along with MK, Oliver Heldens, Idris Elba, and the Radio 1 DJ Sarah Story on the Saturday headlining stage as well. And there's like stuff also DJs like Carl Cox, Eat Everything, Dead Moon Example, Faithless, Ariel Free, the another Radio 1 DJ, Fisher, Salado, Pete Tong, Eli Brown, Ben Hensley. I like Ben Hensley. Andy C, Wilkinson, Shyfex, Armand Van Houten, Hammond Watts, Sam Devine, Low Steph of Fire, Jeff Spade. It's loads of big DJs, Charlie, as well. And there was also, I believe, from what I understand, Charlie, a silent disco on the Thursday night as well. From what what some of my mates have been texting me as well. Silent disco is, for those who are wondering, a silent disco is where you're given a headset, Charlie, that it's not actually played out loud in natural sounds. You're given a headset and it will play the music in your headset, and you just dance to the song you're listening to. But what's interesting about silent disco is everyone's song is played differently at different times, Charlie. Most of the time, anyway. So you could have one person listen to one song and another person listen to another. It's very interesting. And it does make for some really weird dancing, especially when you're drunk. Unfortunately, I know two friends that unfortunately resort to having a few drinks. But yeah, that's all I'll say. But they are certainly doing it. That's the main thing, though, Charlie. They are getting on well. They are enjoying it. I am texting them throughout when needed to be. But yeah. I have to say it's a great lineup, Charlie, and especially around the road, because especially it's only in Chonston as well, so it's very close to us as well.
Yeah, for me a little way, but all I can say is Creamfield South. If you are there this weekend, please enjoy it. But be aware, guys, though, this is a ticketed event only. You can only attend if you have a ticket. These tickets, by the way, are not e-tickets. You have to buy them. So yes, this is
sold out as well.
South.
Yeah. And they're sold out.
Creamfield South on this weekend. It is on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which is tomorrow. Please get yourself, if you are down there camping, as a couple of my mates are, basically enjoy it. Enjoy it. Hope you have good sleep. Hope you certainly enjoy your getting ready, should I say. There's a toilet block nearby. I'm surely not going to want to go in the shower and see people scratching their eczema. But yeah, certainly it is going to be interesting to see how they get on at that event. But more now on that. It's time to move on now to the papers because there's plenty of action coming up on the show. Now, let's go over the papers. By the way, guys, with that, I'm talking about camping there, by the way, because trust me, if you go camping, you don't have a toilet in your tent. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we've got papers for tomorrow. We've got loads of them, Charlie. Sorry to interrupt. We've got loads of papers for tomorrow. We've got plenty of. We might as well just go through all the tomorrow's ones because we've got plenty.
Yeah, we will certainly, Zach. We are going to go through all of them right now for you because I have just seen them and they are flooding in as we speak. Here we go. Probably all themed to the Queen's Diamond Platinum Jubilee, wherever possible. So here we go. I'll start by announcing headlines. The Daily Express, front page of the 4th of June, goes with "We will give thanks." That was the historic Platinum Jubilee edition. The Daily Telegraph goes with "Thank you for staying the course." The Times goes, "You're still in the saddle." That goes with picture of Harry and Meghan, interestingly as well. The Daily Star goes for very interesting headline.
It's not very
if you're at Creamfields, this headline might be interesting. Gutted. Dumped lovers learn beer bellies not so sexy after all. As well. The Daily Mail goes for "So far apart, painful distance St Paul's couples." The Mirror goes for Platinum Jubilee, together yet apart. Financial Times Weekend goes with a slightly different thing. Woodford Fund claim launch. Investors try to recoup losses. and Capital's drinkers face sobering reality as cost of London pint climbs to £8. And the weekend goes with Johnson tells stories without me, you lose. Zach, what do you make to the latest headlines?
Well, most of it going for the royal headlines, Charlie. Some of it going for more political, and one of them going for a bit more of a drunk headline, if more anything like that. Let's start with the more royal headlines, Charlie. Let's start off with the Daily Express, because they've gone with "We give thanks." This is this is obviously talk about today's Thanksgiving service, which was the Queen wasn't there about. It was, brought the nation together, Charlie, as well. It was a 2,000 strong congregation at St Paul's Cathedral, obviously doing the most religious things that they possibly can, Charlie. But it was a nice little event to mark prayers. And overall, Charlie, just a beautiful service, I have to say. Overall, it was good. Well done to everybody who was at the event and watched the event, took part in it as well. The Queen, by the way, was represented by the Prince Charles and Camilla, the Duke and Duchess of Wales, as well. Obviously, there was Harry and Meghan there as well. We'll get onto that in a minute. And there was the Prince William and Kate Middleton as well, also representing the Queen as well. But it was a great service overall, Charlie. I have to agree with you there. The Daily Carecast, thanks for staying the course. The nation gives thanks to the Queen with a nod to her love of horse racing. Obviously, because the Queen is not actually going to be at tomorrow's horse racing, unfortunately, Charlie, which is a shame. Because the Epsom Derby is one of those races that the Queen loves to attend, Charlie. She's been there plenty of times, watch her horses as well take part, and it's a great spectacle to watch tomorrow. That's on 12:40 by the way on ITV tomorrow. As well, the nation gives thanks to the Queen, and also, well, the nation just thanks as well. It's a Thanksgiving, so we give thanks for everything as well, through the love of God and Jesus and all the almighty things that the Christian and Catholic faith give us. The Times goes for a different angle. You are still in the saddle. Archbishop plays tribute to a Queen at St Paul's service. The Sussex is a big royal event to tie together for the first time in 2 years. Absolute, Charlie. The Harry and Meghan made an appearance. I would argue it's good that they did go there because it shows that they actually care about the family. I think if they didn't go, Charlie, then the papers would bash them anyway for basically not going as well, Charlie. So I think it's good that they've actually gone there because it's important. The Daily Star. Let's go for the really weird Daily Star front cover. They've gone in the Daily Star. Dumped lovers discover that their beer bellies aren't so attractive after all. So basically, what they're saying is, if you drink beer and you are fat, then you are not attractive. I kind of agree that if you're too fat, then you're not really that attractive. Maybe these people need to go to Weight Watchers, because I think you're putting on a little bit too much weight and drinking too much beer. That's all I say. The Daily Mail, for this instance, go for so far apart. So the fact is, we didn't actually see today, Charlie, much interaction between Harry, Meghan, and William, Kate. They are still very. In fact, the Mirror go for the same as well. By the way, we might as well cover both of them. We obviously saw them at the service, Charlie, but there doesn't seem to be much interactions between the brothers. Obviously, they've obviously. I think obviously we know that for the last few years that the relationship is between the brothers is deteriorated as the fallout in the family happened. But yet, you thought this would have been a great idea to sort of get them together, but they've obviously decided that they weren't going in together, Charlie, and they're going watch, with their respective partners as well. The FT weekend, we've done the Mirror because we've definitely done the Mail as well, by the way. So the FT weekend, we're going to more of the political and business news now, Charlie, because I think that's the pretty much it done. A claim has been filed on behalf of 1,500 investors against the administrators of the collapse fund of Neil Woodford, Charlie. As well, the lawsuit could top 100 million, and the collapse unit collapsed in 2019, and the investors are trying to recoup losses. So the losses still haven't been there, Charlie. But the losses has been ranging for years, and they've still not gone away, basically, Charlie. So these investors are trying to get their money back, Charlie, from their collapse, and still 4 years now, 3 years, Charlie, and they've still not got their money back. Pretty bad, isn't it? To be fair. And the I Weekend, I want to talk about this, Charlie, because I think this is really important. The I Weekend goes on the fact that there's been a lot of thing about letters of no confidence this week, Charlie, as the effect of the Sue Gray report has been around. There is rumours saying that potentially the threshold could be reached, or may have already been met, Charlie. And next week we could be talking about leadership votes next week, Charlie. We could well be talking about leadership votes. There are rumours of going around that the threshold may have been reached. A few Tories have been speaking out. Andrew Leadsom, from one of them, Charlie, certainly one of the surprise ones, speaking out. Not exactly 100% backing the Prime Minister, I have to say, Charlie, as well. We know there's about 40-odd MPs that have publicly criticised, Tory MPs that have publicly criticised Boris Johnson or sent in letters of no confidence. So the numbers may not exactly be there yet, but behind the scenes, well, Charlie, it could well be the numbers that are there potentially as well. And the Prime Minister is basically saying, if you're without me, you're going to lose. I don't agree with that. I think with the Boris Johnson leading the Conservative Party at the moment, Charlie, there's a lot of trust. Some would say that the Conservative Party are Corbynising themselves. Really, to be fair, Charlie, with the hatred and then the set they get from the public as well. I suppose one of the big backers, Nadine Dorris, is going to go around saying that, this is all sabotage and all that sort of thing. Boris Johnson, by the way, I want to bring this up, Charlie, because Boris Johnson got booed today at today's service Thanksgiving from the crowd. You may have been, it's pretty audible to hear all the boos that was happening today, Charlie. It was quite shocking, but it just shows you that as well, even with the Brexit-loving royal crowd there, it wouldn't be a bunch of lefties that go to these sort of events, Charlie, I should point out. It's this sort of audience, and they're all booing Boris Johnson, he's in trouble. That is a telling sign, I think, Charlie, nevertheless, as well. But yeah, I think next week we may well be talking about confidence votes. May not be, but we'll see next week, Charlie, because Westminster will be back to usual next week, and it's going to be fun, I think.
It's going to be interesting
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, guys, and please stay tuned for next week. If letters of no confidence do get in, and we'll recap the latest session in Parliament. Now moving on to the Great British Star and Red Devils of the week. Plenty of them to get through. Now, one of my nominations goes to Queen Elizabeth II, one of my stars this week, Great British Star, because she has been on our throne for probably over 65 years now. She has been an incredible asset to the United Kingdom. Hence why I'd give her a nomination. I'm also going to give a nomination to the Britain's Got Talent cast crew for putting on a very, a spectacle of a week of entertainment to the nation with the semi-finals. Anton Deck have hosted them. I know there's been some criticism. Some of the acts, like the last night, the Phantom, didn't get through. For example, a talking chair as well. But yeah, the whole show's been great. I've watched it and I will be watching semi-final 5 in a little while as well. So plenty of them acts as well are going to be mentioned. Red Devils, plenty of them. I'm going to give it to the European Union for this issue on Russian oil and gas. I know it's been resolved now, but still they couldn't discuss anything, let alone they struggle to negotiate on this. Clearly, to me, is one of the reasons why Olaf Scholz gets a nomination on this as well, in the same context. Meghan Markle gets a nomination as well for not seeing her father. I am sickened by this news because Thomas Markle, her dad, has suffered a stroke the other day. He was due to attend these Jubilee celebrations. Unfortunately, he couldn't because he suffered a stroke. I just want to say that Meghan Markle should be ashamed of herself for that, because her dad, in my view, has actually suffered a very serious injury. I'm not sure on his condition, but the other day he did suffer a life-threatening stroke. I think he is okay. I hope Thomas Markle is in good condition at the moment. Another nomination, Priti Patel. What the hell is going on with this migrant crisis in the Rwanda plan? Clearly, something is not right. And if you're considering a tube strike next week, RMT also get a nomination as well on that one, because we do not need unnecessary tube closures. Zach, what do you make to my nominations this week? The Great British Star Medley.
Yeah, very a big mix of them, Charlie. Certainly buy them. I'm going to keep mine simple this week because I'm going to keep it royally themed. My British Star and Red Devil, Charlie. My British Star this week is obviously going to be the Queen. Who else would it be, to be fair, Charlie? There's no better person to select the star than our Queen, who's been celebrating 70 years on the throne, Charlie. What a weekend it's going to be been so far. It's going to get better tomorrow, and it's going to get better Sunday as well. It's going to be such a brilliant 2 days of action for the rest of the weekend, Charlie. It's just going to be brilliant. I love it, every minute of it so far. It's been great. And the Red Devil this week, Charlie, I'm going to be interested in the Red Devil this week, Charlie. I'm going to give it to the Archbishop of Canterbury. And I'll tell you why, and I wish him well, by the way, because he's recovering from COVID. He suggested just on Tuesday that the Duke of York should be that he should encourage society to be, quote, open forgiving, Charlie. And that meant he also referenced the Duke of York, aka Prince Andrew, in this as well. And I was thinking, I normally like the Archbishop of Canterbury. But why would you come out with something like that? Prince Andrew and forgiving? Come on. He must be taking the pee. And I thought, what a ridiculous comment, Charlie. And that was enough for me to get the Red Devil for this week, Charlie. I wish him well with COVID and everything like that, and pneumonia, by the way. But if you're going to come, I mean, it's a shame it comes out with those sort of comments because it does discredit him, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's a shame, really. But so the Queen gets the British Star for me, and the Red Devil goes to the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah, my honorary nomination goes to cinemas who are selling out ID cards as well. Because I read up on just before we go, guys. Did any cinema announce ID cards as being mandatory? Well, I have to say this is to apparently prevent children from being turned away. Is this going to be, I mean, just before we go, guys, I just want to quickly show you this. Are we officially going to stick vaccine passports on cinemas for children? That is why this nomination gets selected.
Yeah. I
don't know what you make of it, Zach.
They're accepting it. They are accepting it. That doesn't mean it's permanent, though, I think, from what I understand. I think if it's to provide an alternative way, then I don't mind it personally, in my opinion. I think it's just advancing technology, I think, Charlie. And I don't mind advancing technology in that way, Charlie. So yeah, it's not really bothering me.
Yeah, all I can say, guys, is that's the end of the show this week. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again next weekend, where we'll round up more of the latest news from the world of media, and also, crucially, the latest headlines as we come in. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Take care, and goodbye.